Hello, everyone. Welcome to Adobe Live Pride Week. I'm your host, Ruben, and this week we are celebrating creativity for all from LGBTQ plus community and allies. I'm super excited because today we have a special guest, Brandon, aka Brandon Groce. Brandon will be designing a commerce mobile app with us for 2 days using Adobe XD. I want to say hi, everyone on the chat. Let's see who is in there. Wade, COVID, Jack, it's in here. Adungo. Let's see who else is in here. All right, so people are jumping in. That's super excited. Alex is here, Web Donut, always supporting everyone here on Adobe Live. So before we jump into Brandon, I just wanted to remind you, if you miss previous live streams illustrating fresco with Noah Aspen, you can check out the replays on Behan or YouTube. Brandon, Brandon, to me, Brandon, it's a funny guy. It's a talented designer. It's a speaker, content creator, and it's a designer with over a decade of design experience. Actually, I'm super excited because I've been with Brandon, on different events. He has hosted me on different events, and now was my turn to be his host. So, we wanted to know a little bit about you, Brandon, for the people in the audience, and what's the plan for the next 2 days? Take it away.
All right, for sure. So welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Ruben, thank you for that awesome introduction. I'm also happy to be here as well. If you guys don't know me, I also have on my screen, we're going to keep it simple today, but I create content that helps designers skill up and get paid. I have worked with, obviously, Adobe. I work with Wix, their subsidiary Editor X, to help really create content that helps you guys get upskilled and get paid and reach your dreams in your design careers. But other than that, I've worked with Disney, I've worked with Dannon, I've worked with Salesforce, Hilton, and many other names that I can drop in the design world in helping them create their sales funnels and things like that. And today we're going to very specifically we're going to be working on an e-commerce mobile application. So with that said, let's dive into that.
All right, that's great. All right, I see people jumping into the chat saying hello. Cody Bear, Malika saying hey guys, how you guys doing? All right, so people are just jumping in. If you have any questions for Brandon, please put them on the chat, and I'm happy to deliver it to Brandon, of course. All right, so I love what I'm seeing right now.
And while if you guys see me do a quick pause, it's because I'm changing my audio settings in the back very quickly so you guys don't get blown out by my beautiful vocal cords, okay? So with that being said, also do let us know in the chat if it gets a little overwhelming. We're trying to do as much as possible there for you guys. But for today and tomorrow, what we're going to be doing, because if you guys have watched any of my previous content here on Adobe Live, you guys know I love my prototyping, my animations, my delicious stuff that,
that's right.
We really don't get to very often when we're doing these things. We're caught up in the wireframing, which is still very insightful for you guys to watch. But I basically put all this stuff together so that we're going to be focusing on the onboarding, the sign in, the registration, the search, the explore, basically just putting everything together. I already know where everything is going to be. So feel free to ask Ruben those questions, because I literally did not bring up the chat on my side of things today. So Ruben you're going to facilitate the conversation.
Of course.
So today we're going to see what we can get done from all of these pieces here from a design perspective. And day 2, we're going to basically, if we have enough time, we're going to finish up with the cart, checkout, account, and saved. And basically the 2 main things that we're going to focus on today is design. If we get to prototyping, cool. If not, really all tomorrow will be animation and finish off there. So,
all righty. I mean, I have Andrea on the chat saying, "Hey guys." All right, let's see who else. Andrew as well. 2 XD icons in one stream. Oh, that's pretty cool. That's dope. I'm pretty happy like hosting you for the first time, because you always on all those streams and live streams that you invite me, I'm always like designing and do it. Now it's my turn to be like in charge.
Take the reins, man. For sure.
All right, so walking us through, what are you doing right now? What is your plan?
So the first plan, I basically kind of like what I have here. I tried to, as you guys can see, day 2, possibly. What I want to do today is I tried to just get all of my images at the ready so I can start pulling what I have in terms of assets together and just prototyping from here. So we're going to start working on the onboarding process here, which is basically I'm just going to go ahead and drag or really just copy this image that I got from Unsplash. Nice. And just paste it in these first 3 onboarding boards here.
Great. Do you know, Brandon, like some designers don't even think about onboarding. And that's kind of like one of the, kind of like one of the main things where you kind of like walk through your users on what's about to happen, or kind of like welcome them. It depends on what the product is about, but some people just go straight up into like, oh, I'm going to design the homepage right away without even thinking about onboarding, which is very, very important.
Well, I mean, I guess it depends. And that felt really good leaning back. I forgot to fix my chair's posture. That's a lot of playing World of Warcraft right there. But what was I going to say? To answer your question, I'm a really messy designer. And in the beginning of things, or at least even in my artwork, I bounce around a lot, right? It's just like you work on the nose, then you work on the back of their head, then you work on their chin. Mm-hmm. I like to onboarding. That's not where the problem is solved, right? So if we're looking at a particular problem to solve in the world, we're looking at like, in terms of like an MVP, right? We're like, okay, how do we solve this problem? It more likely than not has nothing to do with the onboarding. So we're focused on this. We have the core problem figured out, and we're like, all right, great. We have the core of the product figured out. Well, how do we get people in here to understand how to use this product? Onboarding is kind of like how to ease people into the solution to the problem. So I totally understand why people would like throw this in the back seat and kind of forget about it,
Yep. But in some cases, they forget about it like completely. They're like, never thought about it, like, and especially like if it's a new product, this is the best way to kind of like introduce your users to, what's about to happen. What is this about? Or just like have a warm welcome. So yes, let's see who's on the chat right now. Oh, all right. Let me see. Laura, hey everyone. Hey guys. It is on fire. Bay Bars. Hey Brandon. Hey Ruben. What is up, you guys? So welcome everyone. If you're watching us over YouTube or Behance, make sure like if you missed this live stream, you can go back and replay whenever you want. So
which is all the time.
Which is all the time.
Just you guys want to see our faces all the time, okay?
Yep. Oh, you're doing some sort of a pagination here, some sort of like indicator.
A little bit.
Yeah, all right.
A little something.
I dig it.
Trying to get at least 3 things in here.
Nice.
Trying to pull them in. Probably need to size them correctly.
Perfect. And do you think about colors? When did you think about colors? Of course, this all depends on the brand that you're working on and all of that fun stuff. But let's say for a project like this, you thought about the color first, or you were like, okay, I'm gonna think
color
about this
is last, man. To be honest, this is going to be the how do you, I don't know how to say it, the honest podcast with Ruben and Brandon.
I love it. I love it.
Adobe Live. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, it doesn't matter. Like, everyone has a different process. It doesn't matter. It's just like, that's the beauty of being a designer. Like, everyone, some people name their layers, some not. It's at the end of the day, they create great products, right? It's the same thing. It's just like how you feel comfortable. It doesn't matter. So you were gonna say?
I think that was like a defense mechanism. My brain was like, don't say it. But basically, I leave that stuff to the very end, because to me, the issue or the challenge that I'm trying to solve is what the value of the product is going to be. The colors and all that stuff, there's tons of people who are way more skilled than I am, who like sit there and like smell the flavor of the colors and are like, oh, this color goes with this. And
or some people just like go like to the hex and they go like FF3300. It's a nice orange.
Yeah, I'm not trying to do that all day, man. I literally do my job, which is, or the best thing that I am good at, which is solving the problem. And then all the other things, like what fonts go with what and the colors that go with what, I go on Dribble or whatever. I'm like, oh, that's a nice color palette. We're definitely stealing that to, invoke a feeling into my application. Like, I don't only trying to use my brain to solve the problem. Everything else, just outsource it. Oh, that looks cool. I'm gonna bring it into my application. Oh, that makes me feel like this. Just bring it in. I don't.
It's all about bringing that inspiration into your own and then creating your own stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And people just like, sometimes they're like, oh my God, you're an expert on colors and in typography and how to. Yes, experience gives you that, but at the same time, what gave me the experience on my end is it's more of try different things and, fail so many times and be like, okay, that doesn't work. Okay, that doesn't work. Like, I do that all the time. And I bet you do too. Like, you try to test things left and right just to see what works. And then, of course, because you have more than a decade of experience, you know what works and what doesn't work.
You know what? I think that's really interesting. I think some of it is knowing what works and what doesn't, but really things change so quickly. It's like, I feel more often than not, I know how to try enough things to be like, oh, that worked, because I feel like in the ever-changing landscape that we're in, you might know a little bit more than somebody else that helps you get to that next thing that you need to test.
That's right. I mean,
it's constantly
it's all about it's all about, it's all about trying to define the best solution you can for that specific product. People think, and I'm going to bring this to you right now because we're talking about that. I have a bunch of people telling me about trends, and and I have my personal reasons not to not like them, but I want to hear your thoughts about trends, design trends and stuff, UX trends and stuff. What do you think about that from your point of view?
I don't necessarily. I think trends are cute for.
Love that.
It's an artist thing, right? It's a style. Yep. And there's certain things that I think trends are for designers' sake, but when you're actually dealing with, for example, you whoever we work with, right? If we're working with Salesforce or whomever, they're not hiring people to be like, hey, can we have this trendy thing? Or maybe some people do that. They're like, hey, we see this trend. Can you guys build us a site or a product or update what X, Y, or Z for us in this trend? There's some people that do that, but there's a very particular, they must be in the business of being in the trend of things. That's probably having to do something with their business. But like, if you're at Dell, if you're at Hilton, they're not going to be like, hey, can you update our site to be in this trend? They're like, no. Can you update our site to make us more money? And so trends are nice when you're in a boardroom talking amongst your peers and being like, hey, there's this new way of doing things. But to me, I think trends are nice, but what I focus on is what I am producing going to, what is the outcome of what I'm producing? What is the outcome for the business? And so if trends are in that, if somehow knowing trends is going to help my client, cool, awesome, done deal. But if they need something that has nothing to do with trends, then why am I focusing on trends? I should be focused on the type of thing that is going to push the needle in the positive direction for that company. So I think trends are nice when it comes to the design community, but it's not something I focus on. I think I like to explore those things to up my design skill set, not necessarily to solve problems better.
Excellent. I love that. From my perspective, when people approach me and they're like, hey, what do you think about if I use this on this application? They're probably doing a portfolio or something else, or case studies or whatever. And I'm like, you can definitely do it for the sake of practicing design and all of that fun stuff. But when it comes to actually solving a problem, trends are not, they're not going to solve anything. They're just like trends. They're going to pass. That's it. It's going to be a month, 2 months, 3 months. Nobody knows. But then they're going to go away. Like when, for example, like when glassmorphism came alive.
And everybody was sweating. They were like, woo! You see that?
People were just like using it left and right. They were creating like business cards with glassmorphism and they were creating everything. And I'm like, you see, like that doesn't pass like ADA compliance. That doesn't pass ADA compliance. Like, I went to, like I saw all dribbles and all these glassmorphism stuff. And I'm like, none of this stuff matters. And like it all depends on the solution you're creating. If it makes sense, then use it. But most of them, like not because they were like, people don't think about like accessibility and stuff like that. And accessibility is very, very important. And some people don't even think about that. And then when they start using this, glassmorphism, new morphisms and all the new trends, they don't even think about that stuff. And that's when some people fail, creating stuff like that. And like it could hurt the business goals and the business objectives, depending on what you're working on.
Exactly. And speaking of glass, we are going to pop some into one of our first welcome screens here. You segued very nicely there, Ruben.
Love it. All right. Let's see who's on the chat. If you're joining us right now from Behance or YouTube, welcome. Brandon is creating an e-commerce mobile application. He's using Adobe XD. And right now he's working on the onboarding screens. All right, so let's go into the chat. If you have any questions, please pop them in there so I can just like ask my friend Brandon right away. All right, so let's see what we have here. Okay, Kevin Lund, he's saying my process tends to be pretty chaotic in terms of grouping and naming layers. Right. Does it make sense to work in my workflow? I'll let you respond first.
So I really should have that opened on my screen. Spent the time to do that. So can you reiterate the question?
He's saying that he's pretty chaotic, like naming his layers and grouping and everything. And then he's just Kevin is asking it if it makes sense to work in that workflow.
If you're running solo, it's fine, right? Whatever allows you to work at the pace that is best for you and that you feel comfortable with, that's totally fine. It's when you need to connect with other people where you need to start changing what is necessary for them to do their best job. Because anybody, including myself, I am literally like the chaos that you're talking about. That is totally me. Like we are friends. Hello. If you've seen my other like what we will be doing today, you will not see me name a single layer until we start getting into animation. You'll see why. We'll do that later. It makes my life a little bit easier. But yeah, I think as long as you are solely working for your own output, I don't care if you're flinging certain things at the wall, right? As long as you're getting at the getting the outcome that you need to do your job, you're good to go. But when you're working with a team, there's other requirements that require different things from you to help them do their job. So that's when I would say, you know, your process is great for you, but when you're working with other people, you need to be very cognizant of what they need to help you produce the big picture outcome. So do not use the chaos excuse for that can really burn the other people that you're working with. If you're like, oh, I just, you know, Brandon and Ruben said it was great to work in chaos. And I learned this on Adobe Live. Like, no, it's very important to understand the people that you're working with. When you're by yourself, you're the only person you have to deal with. So that's my answer.
Yeah, that's
Hope that helps, my friend.
Yep. Kevin, from my perspective, it's like Brandon said, it all depends. Like if you're working alone, you know, in a personal project, like you can do whatever you want because you understand you understand your process and you understand your file and your naming convention and all of that fun stuff.
Right.
The problem becomes when you have to pass this to somebody else, or if you're collaborating with somebody else and you're not empathetic because you're just like putting whatever you want because you know how it works. One of the first thing of being a UX designer is like you have to have empathy, right? And then empathy, if you're empathetic and you create a file with, you know, chaotic names and groupings and stuff like that, then that person that will take your project will be kind of like frustrated, and it's going to create friction with you, with other team members, with the system and with the teams, and you don't want that. But like Brandon said, when you're working on a collaborative environment where you have to be aware that you're going to pass this file to another person, they need to be able to, you know, digest your designs and also see where things are. A really quick story. I learned how to be like that because back when we used to design everything on Adobe Photoshop, for example, I used to be very, very messy. Like 2007, I was just like, you know, like creating layers left and right, and not naming them and putting them in different folders. And when a person, like I went to a company, I was hired by a company and then I started working there and I was the new guy, right? And then when they saw my files, one of my team, like one of my coworkers, that they were like frustrated. They were just like really upset with me because, and I felt terrible. I felt like, oh my God, I'm starting this new position here and these people are going to hate me now. And it's not about that. It's just like I was naive at that time. And then of course I learned a lesson there and then started like thinking about other people's, you know, like when they grab my files, I want them to be like frictionless, you know what I mean? Right. Like,
in the best
position. This is great. They don't have to like, you know, like tag me or say like, hey Ruben, what does this mean? Or no, because everything was laid out. All right, so we have other questions on the chat. We have another one from sorry if I mispronounced this, but it's Mwendawa, asking about, can you describe your creative process?
Man, I'm not sure if I have one. I'm not sure we can even call it creative.
You do have one. It's just like you don't think about it that much. Like
I look at a lot of things, you know. I think everybody can. To me, it's not rocket science. I think everybody has their own way of like being like, oh, that's super cool. And then for me, it goes, oh, that's super cool. Well, how is that super cool thing done? And then I do a whole bunch of research on how that super cool thing is done. And then I go and try to do that cool thing. So for me, for example, it's a 3-step process. Find inspiration, learn how to do the thing that inspires you, and actually do the thing that you learned about. So if we go back to glass morphism, these trends that come out, you see really cool things that are produced in this new technical way, and you're like, oh, that's really cool. Well, how do I go and do that? I go ahead and I learn how it's done. Then I try to see where I can find to implement this new technique that I learned in my work somewhere.
Yes.
And I, tying that back to why I think trends are such a hot new thing is because creative people are constantly trying new things. And then when other designers get inspired by that, they try to replicate what they think is awesome and showcase their work and the new work that they produced, learning that new cool thing. So I think that creative cycle and that trend cycle, that's what keeps that thing alive. People are constantly learning to make cool new things, and they want to show people how they did it. So that's kind of my process, if that makes sense. It's not a super complex one, but if you want to go a step further into where do I get my inspirations from, it's just Google. I type like everything I think, I type it into Google and I'm like, oh, that's okay. Yeah.
That's awesome. From my point of view, from my perspective, creative process comes, of course, this all depends on the project you're working on, right? Like it all depends on what is the, what is the problem that we are trying to solve. Like, do we have research on this? Like, I like to kind of like, do kind of like a discovery phase, kind of like to see like what is it that we're doing, how competitors have done it in the past, how can we make it even better, how can we make it usable and like easy, for the users, make it approachable, readable. Like I go into that, like I said, it all depends on the project you're working on, but essentially like you have the double diamond that you see: discovery, design, development, evaluation. You see all these processes, but they're not for us to follow them like through truly like step by step. Like you see people that, oh, my creative process, I have, the first one is discover and research, and then prototyping, and then like I'm using my my deep voice for this, but it's not about that. It's everyone has a different perspective on how to interpret things, so you find your own way to do things. If you feel like for a landing page that you're creating, you need to do a little research because of the product that you're working on, then do a little research, do an A/B test, and do a little bit research on a user interview or something like that, in order for you to understand, kind of like the user, and also understand the product, the business, or whatever whoever you're working with. It all depends. And then, what Brandon says, inspiration comes from, in my case, comes from everything outside, like from a package design, from a book, from going on Google, actually, like and typing in like glassmorphism, and you're gonna see 20,000 like results about it, and you're gonna pick one that you probably feel like, okay, I can do something like that. And then from there you start creating your own type of glassmorphism or whatever trend you're trying to do. Right. But it's all about, I think creative process is more about personality rather than just like following a curriculum, per se. Like it's not about that. It's about how you come up with the idea or the solution, and how to get that solution is the fun process. Is what we call it, like creative process and all that fun stuff.
Exactly. I'm like, I'm actually really curious about everybody else's, the person especially who asked that question, what their creative process is, because some people might be like, I like to look at grass before I before I get into XD, and I'm like, hey, there might be some processes that we've not tried yet. So I think would love to get the chat involved there as well as courses that they like.
Tell us in the chat, how's your creative process? What do you do? Some people do meditation. You know what I mean? Like they meditate, and then after that they feel like creative, and then they can, people take walks and stuff like that, just to start like
there's things called walks. Sorry, I know I blew out the mic there, my bad.
Yeah, but let's see what people in the chat. Fergie is on the chat. Hey guys, great to see you both. Fergie? Andrea is on the chat as well.
Hey, Ansiosa.
Ansiosa on the building. All right, let's see who else is in here.
I want to know their creative processes because, you know, they're constantly always, I think not only for us, but also the chat. Those are the, you know, not only our friends in group, but, you know, they're doing some very interesting things in the world of UI UX at the moment. And also you too, Ruben. So, you know, unless you want to move on to another topic if questions are coming in.
Questions are coming in, and also I want to know, like you said, I want to know what your creative process is on the chat. So it could be like 1 sentence, 2 sentences, whatever you want to put in there. Just like, what do you think? Like when you're starting a new project, what is the first thing you do? How do you handle like the problem, the solution? What's your process like? Let us know in the chat. I want to get back to you and see like what you are doing right now. I know that you created
we've made some progress. Ladies and gentlemen, we have done our onboarding. So we have 3 page segments here. We have the ability to skip this all together, or really just read through the exclusive benefits, the exclusive items that we're getting by signing up, and then an exclusive offer. And then after we go through these 3 onboarding pages, we hit the join button. And then we're brought to basically, actually, I think there's a little bit of some missteps here, but basically I'm working in these in tandem. But onboarding experience, we're looking good. The second thing that we're working on is our sign in / sign up process. So we have our first page where it's the sign in, sign up. We're using a phone number to sign in. This is a process that basically after we sign in, we are getting a verification through our phone number. This is kind of mix match. I'm basically, this is why I'm glad we stopped here, because this can mix some people up. There is both, we're doing a register piece, and then there's also the phone verification. So basically these two are separated out. This is registering for the first time, which I'm actually we'll figure this out, what we should have and what we shouldn't have in here. Because what we're gonna be doing, we're only gonna do one flow these next 2 days. We're not gonna do both. I think we're gonna stick with the sign in, the verification, you know, after someone puts in their phone number, they put in the digits, that gets texted to them, they hit continue, and they will get dropped onto the homepage.
Perfect.
It's basically like security.
Yep. That's great. Security is very important. And nowadays, it's way too much. Very, very, very needed when it comes to applications and stuff like that. All right. So if you're joining us right now via Behance or YouTube, welcome. Join the chat. You know, Brandon is creating an e-commerce mobile application. He's going through the onboarding process, and now he's going into more like into the registration, verification screens and stuff like that. So, all right, let's see. We have some people saying, like Paula is saying, it's like she does research first. That's her first step when it comes to her creative process.
Beautiful.
That's awesome. Let's see. Currently, my creative process, it's all over the place. I'm still trying to figure it out at the moment. That's the same person who asked you about the chaotic. Let's see. Was it the same person? Let's see. No, it's a different person. But yeah, they're saying that currently their process is all over the place and still figuring it out at the moment, which, you know, I think it's
how we all
it's how we all grow, and that's part of growing as a designer. You're gonna find your way to the process that you like, and also keep in mind that every UX project or design project will call for a different UX or design process.
Agreed.
All right, I have another question from Cody Bear.
Cody, hello.
Yeah, he's let's see. What's okay? Brandon, what's your favorite project you have ever worked on?
Favorite project. See,
All
I guess
right.
it's a little bit different for me now because I'm moving more into community and content-based work with my team. But
Mm-hmm.
my favorite project is really what I'm working on as of right now with oh this is tough question because I haven't even thought about how to even explain this yet since it's so new. But I have been working with a company called Editor X, which is doing a lot of cool things, especially if you guys are creatives in general, where they really make it so much easier to create live. Like, for example, we're just designing all this stuff right now. This is purely pixels. But Editor X makes it so that you can design real stuff in the browser and basically launch your products, your websites, whatever, in tandem with working. I still work inside Adobe XD to kind of get my concept and then boot it up. But, actually making really cool things. And the cool projects that I've been able to work with is working with other creators to teach them how to streamline actually building real things. And so to answer your question, it's a community aspect, meeting a whole bunch of new creatives or creators, building a community around the product and just seeing the different types of people who are in the creative community. Some people are purely from UI UX backgrounds, some are web design, some are pure creatives using the product. And so work has changed a little bit.
Yep.
It's not so much not so much in the nitty gritty of things, but I think as a creative community, I think being exposed to different types of people like that, who are kind of jumping into like the UI UX, what I call the UI UX or web design world.
Yep.
We're starting to see like a kind of a pull together of like different disciplines into really being able to, or getting the power to create things without knowing how to code. And so I'm going to hop off my I don't know why they call it a soapbox. I mean, like I would never buy Irish Spring and stand on it and then talk. that makes sense. But I hope that answers your question. I mean, but if you're curious about like design projects,
like do you have something that do you have a specific project that you really enjoyed doing it and and then seeing it live, like working or whatever, like whether it was an app or print work or mobile or website or whatever? Like, I know it's hard for me. It's hard.
Yeah, that question is hard for me because all of they're not mine, right? They're always for somebody else. Yep. This is why I said the podcast of hot takes. But something that I learned about myself is that, working and producing things for other people is awesome. And that's why I made the switch to be in the position that I am now, because I want to be surrounded by other cool people where we can make cool things together in terms of education. Nice. So I design wise, I think the only thing that I can say that I can be like, look back and be like, yo, that was lit, is the Hilton website redesign that I did like years ago, but it is very far in between because, a lot of it gets handed off. You never see it really, or get to work with it long term. You basically you run it up, you hit the bat, you kind of give it to its owners, and you kind of sit back, relax, and you hope that they respect your design guidelines and don't look at it 3 years later and cry and look at your baby unclothed. So that's a really tough question for me because I've had to make some changes in how I derive my value out of life, if that makes sense, out of my work.
Got it. That's awesome. I mean, for me, I would say, it's hard also to pick like one project, because we, like you said, people like you and I that have more than a decade just designing things left and right, like you get to create like landing pages and mobile sites and print work and editorial and logos and branding and a bunch of stuff. But one thing I can think of from my side is like, I think I work on a well, I think I know I worked on a Pfizer project that it was a photo mosaic, and it was very challenging because we were creating these photo mosaics, giant photo mosaics in New York City. Back then I used to live in New York City, and they have one full block on 45th Street or something like that, and they requested us to create this beautiful gigantic window display photo mosaics with 10,000s of employees, and then those employees will create the silhouette of one feature employee. And oh my God, this was an amazing project. I mean, I work with creative directors, art directors, and I was the designer like in charge of creating this photo mosaics, and it was just a big challenge. But then when I saw, when I saw the final work, it was just like mind blowing. Until this day, still like one of my favorite projects. I still have it on my website, because it's just like one of those projects that mark your career as a designer. And that one I can be like, oh my God, that was one of them. But then digital products and stuff like that, it's just hard to pick one, because like you said, it's like you create this masterpiece in your head and you think like, oh my God, this works, this is beautiful. But then when you hand it over to that company, you don't know what they're going to do with it.
Right.
They might change it later on, or they might use a different color because they were like, oh no, we love what you did first, but now we're going to change it. And there's nothing we could do as designers to change that back again. All right.
Yeah.
So let's see. There's some questions on the chat. You were going to say something?
Oh, what I was going to say was, I guess I've learned I value, my favorite projects are the long-term projects. Sometimes you really get to do really cool things in a sprint format, especially when the opportunity arises. But the things that I enjoy the most is when I've been and seen the product from beginning to end, or even if I pop up in the middle, at least I get to see the fruits of my labor.
Yep, that's right. Oh my God, dude, my first time I had, you probably, every designer goes through this feeling, like when you design something for the first time and it's going to be published, whether it's online or print or, a billboard or whatever, and you see it for the first time, like live.
Yeah.
That feeling, it was just like, I was like, what? Like I designed this and now it's out there and thousands of people are seeing my stuff. Like that feeling, of course, is going to wear off with time. It's not that you don't care. It's more like you're used to it. And, like you did a really cool thing. Like now with the digital world, like people are creating more digital products, of course, and you get to touch people's through your phones and applications and stuff like that. Not only thousands of people, but sometimes millions of people will see your stuff, which is awesome. And that's why I love like being a designer. All right, I have another question from Paula Alejandra, and let's see, can you suggest some XD challenges? For example, I would like to learn how to generate interactions between a complete web page without doing so many screens.
What was the last part of that? What are they trying to do?
I would like to learn how to generate interactions between a complete web page without doing so many screens.
Got you. Well, you don't need to have a whole bunch of. Well, first, I'm gonna subpar answer your question and then give you the challenges, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't necessarily need a whole bunch of screens to produce interactions for what you're producing in XD. What you have to do is really sit down and think how you want to what is it that you want to produce, and how can you do that in the most efficient way.
Yes.
So, for example, since if you're looking for challenges, right, in the Adobe Live atmosphere or orbit, there's 30 minutes that the people have to produce these things. So in the 30 minutes, unless they've done a lot of work to be like, okay, you only need these 2 artboards and we're going to push all this stuff in these 2 artboards. Personally, I haven't even been able to do that during my challenges. I show you guys in the shortest way possible how to get the outcome with maybe not the most efficient way. It's just like, hey, we have 30 minutes, boop, boop, boop. I've got like 5 artboards, but we got this cool thing at the end. Whereas if you've done that one time, you do it a second time, you do that a third time, you're like, oh, Brandon's out here doing it with 5 artboards. Well, he only really needed 2 if he made these things components, or if he made these changes, you can start condensing it. So what I would say is, one, I would highly recommend everybody who wants to do really like high quality animations, look up this guy named Igor Vensko. First name is Igor Vensko. I don't know how to spell it, but I know Enciosa and Fergie in the chat know who he is. So if they could drop any of his stuff in the chat, that would be highly very valuable for you guys in the chat, because he is able to make some of the most heinous things that I have seen in Adobe XD, and I'm just like, how, why, where?
Yep.
And so I highly recommend him as a resource. He's very efficient. He's got a great YouTube channel.
Awesome.
Yeah, it just takes time. Like, the 30 minutes I was talking about in the challenges, that's what I can do. Like, it's going to be very dirty, but we have the outcome. But if you spend time, make it efficient, you can not only have the outcome, but you can have the efficiency.
Thanks to Cody Bear for putting his link up on the chat.
Cody,
so people can just like go and jump and check this guy out and see like what the amazing things that he creates with Adobe XD. I have a question from Fergie. All right.
Okay.
Fergie says, what's been the most challenging client interaction or situation that you have been in, of course, and how do you overcome it?
Most challenging client interaction?
Yes. And how do you
That's like
overcome
a
that
question. That's like you trying to put me in some hot fire publicly.
Nice question, Fergie.
Put Brandon on the spot. Here's the best question.
Think about one. Like I have a bunch, but
yeah, I'm like the ones where they were challenging, I probably ended up not working with them. Or it usually was like we weren't on the same vibe, or maybe the way that we wanted to do business contractually was not. We were not on the same page with it, or things were taking too long. How did I deal? How I dealt with it. Not without going into any names or really stories. It was just like how I do business engagements. It's usually it's very hard to not be friends with me. So I'm still friends with these people. Just the way that we do, the way that we want to transact isn't cool with one another, and it's just fine. But we still talk regularly. Nice. But all I look for is am I able to produce what this person or this group or this organization needs? 2, it's just like comfortability. I only do business in things or with people or organizations that I'm comfortable with doing with the terms that I want. On their side, they're same thing. They will probably only do business with people they're comfortable with on the terms that they like. So, you know, some of the things where things got a little funky is if my lawyer, if I, you know, was working with my lawyer and I was like, hey, we need these terms in the contract. And, you know, we had conversations about, you know, terms and they're like, we can't really do that. And I'm like, it's going to be a problem. We try to work around it.
Deal breaker.
Yeah. And it's just like, if, you know, there's certain things that they can't give, you know, they can't give me that I'm, you know, we'll try to like really get in 50-50 so that everybody, you know, both people get what they want. But sometimes it's very, you know, fractional, small piece where it's just like, you can't really give me the thing that I want. We're kind of looking at like, I'm giving 60%, you know, not 60, I can work with 60-40 because, you know, most of the time it's just like, you know, the client is going to be like, we're not going to give you everything. We want to see, especially if they're like a cold client, like they don't know anybody, they haven't been introduced to me, things like that. Yep. I'll have to put in a little bit more effort in that relationship in the beginning to get to 50-50. But if they're like, I have to put in 80% of the effort and they're 20 in terms of the terms, or they get the majority of what they want, 80%, and I get sitting with like 20% of what I want out of the relationship, no thanks. Yep. But it's not, you know, it never turns into anything ugly. It's purely just negotiations. And if the terms aren't right for both parties, we just go our separate ways. We like what you're doing. They like what I'm doing. But until the terms can meet, you know, we'll high five.
Yeah.
Until, you know, we're ready.
That is awesome. On my case,
terms,
I would say
Fergie, terms is how
terms. That's right. And this is something that you brought up, and I love that because some designers out there, they're starting their career right now, and they don't have like contracts and stuff like that. And that's something that you need as a designer, especially like if you're freelancing and stuff like that. You got to make sure you protect yourself. That's one thing that you have to keep in mind. It's not only about the company that you're working with, or it's about protecting you as a person, because you're producing all this work, right, for this company, and then you're getting compensated, but you have to be comfortable, like what Brandon said. If you feel comfortable with X company and they're treating you well, and those payments are getting to you on time and everything is good, you're gonna have a better relationship with that company, and you're gonna get more work out of it like later on. So make sure you have your contracts up to date, and make sure you read it, and make sure they read it as well. Because
make sure you get a lawyer because if you want to, the contracts, like man, I'm not gonna lie to you. The two things I don't mess with are, I have a bookkeeper, I have a CPA, and I have a lawyer. Like, those things have saved my life. And, like, one, I don't know how much money I'm losing on contracts. Like, things that my lawyer helps me with is like, hey, you should, because the lawyers, they deal with other people like me who are probably way further than I am. And they can see if I'm being taken advantage, if the company is trying to take advantage of me, or what is called overreach. And they can help me negotiate, and I can look like the happy smiley person while while we're in the call, and my lawyer's like,
yep.
So those are the three things I highly recommend if you're just, especially a freelancer, if you got something on the side. You don't have to have like a full-time person. Like, just find somebody on Upwork, or ask around your family if you have anybody who specializes in contracts for your area. Like, I don't those things have helped me tremendously.
Also, let's not get it twisted, because if you're starting and you're creating a logo, let's say for $300, let's say, just hypothetical case or scenario here, if you're starting right now, you don't have to have a lawyer for that $300 contract, because those fees that will be kind of like a half an hour for a lawyer to take a look at what are you about to do. So,
yeah,
make sure, like, depending if you're scaling up, like you need a lawyer because your contracts are more and more, it's more money that we're talking about. It's more work, and a lot has to be involved in it. A lot has to be involved with that project or company. Then definitely hire a lawyer, because like Brandon said, it's very, like, you got to protect yourself.
When you're dealing with like tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars, get a lawyer.
Yep, get a lawyer. Right there. All right, Brandon. So we talk a lot with the chat. We interacted a lot with them, but talk to me. Like, what are you doing right now?
All right. So what we are doing right now is we are working on the search page. We're in the problem solving of the application right now. We're looking at, I'm building the search function of our app. So we have the last seen, we have the last searched functionality. We're building out a little bit of our last search. We have the ability to, let's see, this is just an option. I'm not sure if we're going to keep it. The ability to delete all of the search history, just in case if you don't want, let's say your significant other is really, they're a Jordans fan and they see you have Adidas in your search history, you might have some trouble. So you might need to be able to delete all to not be in that predicament during dinner.
Yep.
So I saw those Adidas in your cart, Ruben. Yeah, you don't want to have that discussion while you're trying to eat some pizza.
That's right. Let's get a little bit technical. Like, when it comes to designing this sections, and do you componentize everything, or do you sometimes like create one or two components and then sometimes on the flow, like if you create something new, then you create a component out of it because you will use it later on? How's your process about that?
My process is so kind of what you guys are seeing here. I have like very loose, like even I have like a whole array of like photos. I have some of my buttons here. I have some of my icons. Only very few things are what's we call it?
Componentized?
Yeah, very few things are componentized because there might be something not all of these things are like purely decided out. I'm like, I think I want to play with these. Maybe, I definitely not just a male and female sort of a navigation. Maybe we have some non-binary stuff in there.
Nice.
But I just work very loose. And then finally, kind of what we've already touched on in the beginning here is I work very loosely. And then when I'm like, oh, I like that, which is probably going to be if we were to do it, right?
Yep.
Once I loosely work and I have concreted some of the decisions that I've done here digitally, I'm like, okay, this looks good. I'm going to componentize this. And I'll use those components for later use. If, for example, if this was a real project, those components would be there for me to update if this needs to be changed in the future, for somebody else to update with ease rather than doing it as I go. But there are some people that I have watched where like they build out component. I don't even know how they think that way, but they're able to do it. They build like their whole component library before they start designing, and they're just like drag here, drag there, but
don't.
Yeah, I'm like, what? My brain just doesn't go that way. However, I've seen it in action, and I'm just like, this is like my eyes. I wish I could do that, but I have neither practiced that, nor do I like to work that way. It's very uncomfortable, and I make more mistakes if I were to work that way.
Nice. That's cool, man. Like you said, everyone has a different way to organize things and design things, and like everyone is totally different. I'm kind of like in the same realm with you when it comes to personal projects. I if I know what I wanted to do for a snack bar or for a drawer for one of the apps, and I have an idea and I have the brand and the colors and everything, I will componentize those things first because I know what I want.
Yeah.
But also I have I have kind of like a mood board with some, iconography, photography. Then when it comes to the navigation, I would probably like create not a component, because probably I'm going to be tweaking things left and right just to see like what works, depending on color, layout, balance, all of that fun stuff. But then once I feel like, oh, this is great, I love this, it works, it's accessible, everything is perfect, then I'll componentize it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Since you talked about, Editor X and how people can, design and kind of like put things together on the fly and then launch it, I had some questions here on the chat saying how important it is as we UI designers know code and development. Your thoughts?
Honestly, at this point, I really do think that it's just purely up to what you want to do as an individual. Like if you like code, nobody's stopping you from doing code. But if we're in the is it necessary conversation, it's necessary for communication, because if you're out here building something that your team needs to know how to build and you're just out here outrageously blowing up budgets by producing crazy things for communication purposes, know what you need to know in order to communicate to your dev and code technical partners. However, do you need to know how to code and all that technical stuff? Not really. Like I have been in multiple, like so I've worked with a lot of online design schools, code schools, and I think earlier or towards the end of the last year, a lot of schools were asking me because they wanted to output new design targeted coding boot camps. And one of the questions, that I had was like, what are your thoughts on the same question that's being asked here? Code or no? And and I don't think, because there's so many no code tools that are actually good in today's day and age. Editor X is one of them, where you only really need to understand design. And so it's a tough question because it really depends on the context of the person asking. If you're at a company, or you want to be at a company where you're going to be working with developers and you only know design, you're probably going to need to know how to communicate with developers. Yes. If you're a freelance individual and you're trying to be able to produce an all-in-one sort of product for whoever it is that you're working for, do you need to know how to code to produce what it is that you're trying to sell to your clients? Absolutely not. Find yourself a no-code solution. You have things like Editor X, and there's a app version. Fergie's in the chat. She does a bit with them. I forget the name, but there's a lot of developers are working on the bigger challenges of, how can we democratize creativity, essentially? How can we get people who are highly creative to build live living sites, products? How can we get people to launch their businesses with a click of a button and not have to have all of this technical prowess to just launch something? So today's day and age, like tech life, design life is a lot easier. You just have to know where to go. Is Fergie still in the chat?
Let's see.
Answer our beloved question on that or no?
All right. I think she is still on the chat.
Because there's, if not that, I will, because there's another one that's not coming to mind. I want to say Ober. Yep. No, that's not it.
Bravo Studios.
Yeah, there's Bravo, and then there's another one that a lot of my agency friends like to use. And it's not it's not coming to mind, but I'll look for that for tomorrow to share with you guys.
Cool. That's great. From my perspective, like in of course, like you said, everyone has a different ways to approach this stuff. Like I get this question all the time. Like, hey, I'm a UX designer now, and do I need to know how to code? And the short answer is no, but hear me out. If you know how to code, you will be able to speak engineers and developers language, which will definitely help you out, having a collaboration with that team. Like, for example, in the company that I work right now, I deal with a lot of engineers, but I know how to code. I know because I taught myself how to code back in 2007. It doesn't mean like you're not going to be a great UX designer if you don't know how to code. No, it all depends on the situation, or, you know, the company that you work for. If you're working with, you know, designers and developers and engineers, and you need to speak their language a little bit, because what you're designing is going to affect them, and see how they can create those designs and make them functional. So you need to be, it's not that they're going to put you to, hey, Ruben, code me this, you know, like you never do that.
Yeah.
But if you know at least the basics, you know, like when I learned back in the days, it was HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And till this day, the other day I was just updating my portfolio. I haven't touched code for a long time, maybe like 2 years or whatever. And then I started coding like it was like I learned it like, or like I was used to it, and I was like impressed. I was like, wow, I still got it. I mean, like it's still in my brain.
Got it.
Yeah, it's still in my brain, like, you know, defining like, you know, like some CSS properties, and then also like going into divs and what to do with when there's absolute position this, and, you know, like it helps you. It's a plus. It's not a minus in your resume. It's not a minus in your career. So if you can do it, then, you know, do it. It won't hurt you.
Yeah. But don't be waiting, like, because the thing is also people will be like, oh, I need to learn dev skills or something. So they'll postpone getting into the market just to learn. And I'm just like,
I've seen people like
the resumes
trying to learn like React and stuff like that. And I'm like, you don't have to do that. Like, who told you to, you know, learn React or SQL or like ASP.NET? Like who? And then this person was like, I just want to be a designer, you know, like just a designer. I'm like, that's it. You are a designer. Like you don't have to, you know, like learn all these programming languages. If you want to be successful, just learn as much as you can, practice a lot, and then just like, you know, learn however or how much you can, given your time and your situation, you know.
Yeah. And even and then we'll get back into, because I kind of want to jump back. Well, we only did one page. We'll go back into this. I'll say this and then I'll explain kind of what's happening on the screen. Right. One of the easiest things that you can do, like if you're, because there's a million, like there's everything under the sun. Like there's certain things in the world of web design that I have no clue about, that I probably wouldn't even use based on the use cases that I work on day to day. Or really anybody, like you can be a web designer and still like have no clue about certain things. Yep. But what's important is like, if you're trying to go work at a FANG company or a particular company, like just go on LinkedIn, type their name into the search box, look at who is in the positions that you want to have, go and look at their portfolios. That will signify if your work is on par with theirs, you have a chance. If it's not, there's some things that you need to learn. If you have some things to learn, figure out what's in their portfolio and learn that thing, because those are the things that got them that job. And that's how you fast track your way into understanding what you need to learn to get where you want to go, versus like learning everything under the sun, getting a job and realizing like 1/10 of the thing got you the job.
Yep.
So
that's a great advice. Like study the company that you are applying for, you know, see what they are all about, and you know, you'll take it from there. That's awesome. So what are you doing? Like, let's walk us through now. I see that you created this page already, this screen. I see more components in there. Most popular search. Nice.
Yeah,
about
so
that?
we have our search page. We're gonna basically what we're working on now. This is gonna be our explore page. So this is basically home base that will connect to the search page. This will connect to the different categories. This will connect to the cart, the checkout, things like that. So this is basically what is going to run the entire experience. We probably should have started with this first,
Okay.
but better working on it now because you guys will see the grand scheme of how everything fits together.
Nice. That's awesome. And since I know you, you will be creating some sort of interaction, animation, some, something moving in those screens, right? Am I right?
If we get to it today, yes.
Yeah, no, but I mean, like
in
today,
general,
in
yes.
general, I know that you will probably bring some of that flavor into this application that is looking hot. Love it.
We definitely will.
What do you guys think on the chat so far? Brandon has gone through onboarding, searching, registration, and sign up. He's killing it right now. All right.
You're gonna be like, we haven't seen the entire app yet.
we have 2 days.
The search bar is not that sexy.
We have 2 days. So day 1 is today. And of course, if you missed the first part, you can go ahead and replay it on Behance or YouTube and rewatch it whenever you want. And then, of course, come back tomorrow for the second part. But we'll talk about it like towards the end of this live stream. All right. So let's see. We have some people chatting. All right. They have Malika is asking a question about, do you have any specific criteria for scaling font sizes?
The only criteria, I think there's like a scale. Quick answer, no. Second answer is if you want a formula, there's, and Fergie knows this on the back of her hand.
Mm-hmm.
And you probably do too. There is a site that literally is like, helps you figure out the scale of fonts. And I think it's literally called like scale, if you just type in the golden rule typography, I'm pretty sure that website will pop up. But you know what I'm talking about, Ruben?
Yeah, there are a bunch of them. There's one,
not just one.
Type scale, like type scale.com, and people can do it through there. There's also a lot of you divide it or you multiply it by 1.6, so that way you have the perfect, what I like to do. I mean, like it all depends, of course, but they have like the scales, like the golden ratio scale. They have the augmented, the perfect fourth, the minor third, and the major second. Like, there's a bunch of things out there. It all depends on the product, of course, but also I like to play, like myself, I like to play with increments of 8. In 8, 16, 24, 32, 40, you go like, that's kind of like what I base everything kind of like upon, because that way 8 is very very straightforward. It's like it works for digital products. Everyone has, like I said, different methods. Like they want to do perfect fifth, perfect fourth. It all depends, but none of them are wrong. Mm-hmm. Like I said, it just depends on the product that you're working on.
Agreed. I'm actually curious where that the whole golden ratio thing came from. Where
that's the thing. When people talk to me about the golden ratio, and I respect everyone, I'm an old designer. I don't I'm not from in 2014. I'm up from 2003 and 4 when I started like my design career, right? And then when people talk to me about the golden ratio, like you have to be perfectly to me, I don't trust that, because people just impose the golden ratio into something and then they tweak it or whatever, and then they just want it to look smart per se, and just that's how I perceive it, you know, and I don't like that. And it's just, yes, the golden ratio is a really great grid system, but it has its own, you know, ways to use it, and people just like nowadays they just want to be or pretend to be super smart and just imposing the golden ratio everywhere, and they're like, oh my god, you know,
it just sounds good.
Yeah,
show up to a meeting with the golden ratio at your disposal. They're like, right? Oh wow.
Like, and then people, you know, people buy it because people buy it. They're naive and they just like trust you. I mean, if it works for you and you want to use it, then use it. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just like, it's how some people use it that frustrates me a little bit. Like, yes, it's a grid system that you can impose in some of the things that you work. But then when people come to me, like they started talking like, they trying to talk smart and like, oh, you know, I use the golden ratio and perfect 1 point, whatever. I'm like, no. No. I'm like, please, no, not to me. Sorry.
Yeah, all right. I don't think it needs to be that. Like that's what you do. I guess.
Yeah, I love what you're doing there. Oh, this is great.
Yeah, we got our shoes. We got 4 options. We're gonna pull in some of our. We have some lovely 6 options here, so we're gonna pull some of these in. Let's see.
That is awesome.
I have no idea what to name these. So you guys are in the chat, give us names for our 4 shoes.
Yeah.
Adobe, and let's do Adobe and let's do come up with names for an Adobe and Nike collaboration with shoes.
Yeah. Come on, guys, on the chat. Just like
we need 4 or 3.
Give us 4 or 3 names combining like Nike and Adobe, and also of course the color of each one of those might, you know, have some saying in there. But let's see, they're saying here, excellent. Adigon is saying golden ratio is a natural ratio phenomenon first discovered by a student of Kepler. But there's so many ratio like that you can pretty much find any factor to scale or grid by. Lol. Yes, that's right. Ooh, we got the first name. For
what do we got?
Nido. It's Nido. Nido.
What you got, Nido?
We got Nido in there. We have Kebe, Kebe, Keba, or Keeb, or Keeb. No, let's see. Oh, I like this one too. The swatch. The swatch. The swatch. That is, yeah. That is kind of cool.
We got the swatch, and then the first 2 were
Nido, and Keeb. Kebe. That's another one.
Okay.
Swatch. Let's see. Well, the Nike would. Hero, okay, B. All right. We have some, you know, if you can think about any other names, just like drop them in there for us to put it in this beautiful application.
Yes, indeed. And I think I am going to need to pull the background off of this photo very quickly. So, or actually, let me see what I'm going to do. Need to think. Oh, I know what I'm going to do. I am just going to scale this puppy to about here, center that, and I'm just going to steal this color. There you go.
Boom, done.
Happy day, I think. Oh, there's a gradient on this.
There is.
How did I cut this?
I can barely tell.
Oh, there's a shadow. Well, okay. I was like, I don't remember putting a gradient there. It was the drop shadow, guys. Okay. So now what we are doing is we have we've done the explore page. We have a nice search bar. We have our little checkout thing here. We have the Groce collections. Everybody wants to buy that. They want to be nasty on their shoes to be nasty and sick. You know what I'm saying? We have our filter, our categories. We have four for now. But we have our list of products down below. We have our navigation with home, our favorites, and a account navigation or navigation item for you guys to click. And now we're working on the product details. So we've clicked into one of these pieces, and now we're just going to display all of the information related to this product. So that is up next. And we're going to go ahead.
Yeah, something funny that I was gonna say is like I do have Nike shoes and stuff like that, but when it comes to like buying like Jordans and stuff like that, I didn't know about, I was just a consumer thinking about, oh, I want to buy these Jordans. They look really nice, but they're gone within like 2 minutes. I didn't know about this until my wife told me like,
she's like, you gotta cop them.
What was that?
I was like, she was like, you gotta cop them. People
like
pay people to stand out in the lines to go and grab stuff.
I didn't know this, like for real. Like I was like, what do you mean? Like I have to like be there like at 10 a.m. and just like buy it like right away because they're gone the next hour or whatever. And truly, to my surprise, I was on a meeting and I had on my Nike app, I had a notification and then it popped up. And I was like, oh, the sneakers that I want to buy. It was a Air Jordan. And I was like, okay, I'm going to buy after this meeting, whatever. As soon as I, finished that meeting, half an hour later, I try to go in. The shoes were completely gone. I'm like, are you serious? Like, this is very frustrating as a consumer, as a user. Like, I can't buy a product, like, because X amount of people buy it like in bulks or whatever. That was just insane to me. I learned something new that day.
It's the hype beast squad out there just squatting off, just waiting for things to drop.
Right? That's insane. Even like one of my kids, like he was like, oh, I want the same Jordans that you're buying. I'm like, okay, I'll buy it for you. But it's just impossible to buy these Jordans now. Now that I see it on other pages for, like different price, which is crazy. Oh, look at you, using some repeat greed.
Yes, and you guys have to forgive me. I have no idea. You guys can joan on me in the chat if you want. I have no idea how I want to do the select size. I am not a master. This is probably some research I should have done prior, but one of the things that is going to be a challenge, like in the real world side of things, is like sizes are different, especially in the US across different people. So I have no idea how I'm going to do the select size thing, but we'll figure that out.
Yeah.
We'll just start with this to begin with, and let's just pretend this is a universal thing, okay? We just all have alien feet, and this is how we're going about it, okay?
One thing that I know, it's basically the same thing as language as well, components and stuff like that, where they have like two little flags or whatever, depending, and when you click on that particular, sometimes they use a toggle, it all depends, but it's the same thing. It's like US size and then Europe, UK size or Europe size, and but yeah, it gets complicated when it comes to, you want to be inclusive, of course. That's all about inclusive design. You got to think about everyone. Everyone, and think about everyone. Like,
some people got bunions, You gotta have a little bit of extra size, you gotta have a size and then have another filter of just like bunion. I don't even know how it's spelled.
Oh my God.
All right, we're gonna put a size guide in here though. That's how we're going to be accessible to all, a size guide.
Yep, that's right. And then you have a chart that says, whatever is 8 on US is gonna be 12 on UK.
All right. Okay. I gotta focus. What do we need next? All right, so we have our sizes. Guys, what do you think is important to have on a product detail page for a shoe? Do we have any shoe hype beasts in the house? Do we have any people who are those people who pay the people to stay in line for them to get
Yep.
those particular drops?
Yep. I've seen some comments right now saying that, people are just like buying those and then they just like resell them for 500% profit, which is insane. It is terrible. But I do have a question from Paula saying like, what are your favorite Adobe XD plugins? If you have some, if not, it's okay.
My go-tos are lifesavers are icons for design and the lorem ipsum and the newly, well, it's not really newly, it's been a year. the Lottie files that we're able to now bring into our projects.
Yes.
But yeah, those are my three main things. We got the Lottie, we have the lorem ipsum, we have icons for design, and I would just say the entire plugin, the people that they work with and who have plugins on the store, I think all of them have a use case and they have some really good products there to help streamline whatever. So these are my favorite. They are pretty basic in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
But I've seen some other really cool plugins that also try to solve the, which I think you guys want to play with too, right? So there is like, you could design what you want to in Adobe XD and you could press a button and what it is that you've developed becomes a no-code product. So I don't remember the names of those plugins at the moment, but I think if you just go to plugins and you just type in no code, like there are some people who dedicate their time to producing those products. And as time goes on, they'll get more and more sophisticated. And like they've come out like years ago, and the last time I really looked at those plugins, or maybe last year, as I said, I've moved on to other programs, but in terms of the no code stuff. But there are some really good plugins for no code if you guys are very comfortable in Adobe XD. So I would definitely check those out, play with them, because I haven't, and I would love to hear back from you guys how you feel about them.
Yeah, definitely. Tell us in the chat, what are your favorite plugins from Adobe XD? I do have all four you mentioned. I do have icons for design, which I use all the time. Lorem ipsum. I have Lottie's. I do have Pexels. I have on Splash as well. I do use like Whiteboard. There's one called Whiteboard, and also Wireframer. And these, what they do is they already have like pre-templated like designs for specific things. And I can just like, go and steal those components from there and just like reuse them right away. It's just a way so I can be a little bit faster when it comes to prototyping or like wireframing something pretty quick. If we wanted to, showcase something to a client or a designer or whatever. Whiteboard, I use it for brainstorming and like card sorting and stuff like that. It's pretty straightforward. Like if you want to do like an empathy map or something else, you can definitely use those. They're already pre-templated files that you can just drag and drop into Adobe XD, and then you can start like creating, use cases, personas, or collaborate with other team members, and you can start like plug in and play type of thing. And they're very useful. I definitely love like some of these plugins for sure. What do you guys think on the chat? Fergie is saying that she loves Whiteboard too. So good for using with client teams remotely. Yes, definitely. Fergie, I've used it a couple of times with different clients and they loved it.
So what is that, like a collaboration?
It's more like a templated plugin that you go in and similar to icons for design. You look for you look for an icon. In this case, you were like, okay, let me see. We are working on something like a whiteboard, and you want to brainstorm some ideas. you can
Right.
just go ahead and drag like some of their templates already, like they have for brainstorming, for card sorting, for custom journey map, and you drag it and drop it in there, and then people can just, you can start like editing right there, and you can collaborate with other designers, or and then you can do it on the fly, save the file, and then you have that kind of like that whiteboard digital in your in the cloud or in your machine, and you can reuse it whenever you have to come back and be like, oh, what were the ideas we were talking about that day, and then you compare things and you're like, okay, we're gonna go this route. It's very, very useful. It's just like, when we used to be in offices where you have that whiteboard, and then you can collaborate with designers. Yeah, like it's I miss that part. I work completely remotely. I definitely miss that part. But now, because everything is digital, we have to kind of like find ways to make it work for everyone. So
right.
That is awesome. Let's see, icons. Okay, Cody Bear, thank you so much for putting those out there. Icon for design, Lauren Epson, whiteboard, wireframer. It's another one too, which is pretty good.
Much appreciated.
Yes, appreciate it. All right. So I see my name in there.
You've given the swatches 5 stars.
5 stars, and I was able to buy them on this amazing app that Brandon created.
Yes. At a proper date and time.
Exactly. I wasn't like, cutting off like meetings and stuff in order for me to buy it. With this Groce app, I can definitely buy my sneakers.
Exactly. All right. Trying to get these stars into gear.
Perfect.
Line them with your name. Pull this out where it needs to be. Okay.
Perfect.
Group that, and we are just going to make other Rubens.
Ooh, look at that. That's
cloning at its finest, guys. They said that it wasn't done. We've proved science incorrectly. We've cloned Ruben 3 more times.
There you go. I love the hierarchy of this screen. Like guys, like take a look at it. Like, do you see one of the main things on this page is the sneakers, right? Like it's very prominent at the top, and then he has some, like Brandon has some eyeline copy in there, and then the name of the swatch, which is amazing. That name, thank you for that. And then you see the hierarchy like throughout the page, how things it's easy to read, it's just like how people digest this and will evoke, a like, okay, I'm gonna buy this right now, rather than just like scrolling down to the page and not even caring about all the details. It's very important that you use, balance and hierarchy and all that fun stuff. And Brandon, of course, nailed it.
Well, I think we got some tweaking to do, but I will take all that flattery I can get. Only on rare occasions. All right. I was waiting for the PTSD in us designers. It's great, but you know what I mean?
Well, you're designing on the fly. So, which I've been in that situation where it's just insane. You're paying attention to my questions. You're trying to have a conversation. You're designing at the same time. It's, it's a little bit crazy, but we are an expert. Best. All right.
And so we're going to get 4 different Rubens in here. We're going to use user profile. We're just going to say insert random Rubens. And there we go.
Boom.
We have different Rubens.
That's awesome. That's how easy it is.
Yes.
Look at that.
Very nicely done.
Yep.
Right. So what we are going to do after I stretch a little bit. Okay. We only have 30 minutes. We've been doing good. How many pages have we done? We've done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 pages. Oof.
8 pages already. That's crazy.
And I think we're only going to do 1 category, guys. And then I think what we will do is we will try to prototype just basically plug all these together and just start getting some animations in the works.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, with the 30 minutes that we have. Tomorrow, maybe we'll do this, maybe we won't. It will totally just depend on. Designing is great, but I really want to have like a dynamic session where it's just like, yes, we get it, Brandon, boxes, text, photos. More Rubens, great. How do we actually prototype and animate this stuff?
Yes.
So that's what I want to do tomorrow.
That's great.
Okay, let's take a look at this category. What do we want to do? All right.
Nice. So and if you guys are joining us right now, Brandon is creating an e-commerce application, and he's using Adobe XD, of course. He has created more than 7 or 8 different screens already in just day one. He will be producing more work tomorrow. So if you missed the first part of this stream, you can replay right after this one. You can replay the whole thing, whether it's on Behance or YouTube. And then, of course, come back tomorrow for more.
Yes. Always come back. All right, we're going to leave. We're going to just do one category.
That is great.
What do we want to do? All right, we're going to get another photo out here. We might have to just go to Unsplash and grab one. Actually, we'll grab.
That one.
All right, we'll figure it out. Cool. We'll figure it out. So we are going to do the Nike brand rather than the male one. We're going to pop these in here. I am going to. Oof. See, I knew we were going to talk about glass today. You see that? Oof. Y'all didn't know about that. Oof. One more time. I need to see it in the chat, guys. I need to see the oof. So this will be our collection. I guess our hero image. For this part, what do we need for the top though? Back arrow. We want to do.
Yes. Category name, maybe.
Yes, we need the category name, and I also want the search to be here as well. So I am going to go back here, icons for design. We're going to type in search. Surprised I didn't actually give myself a search icon. We're going to grab this one. It's a little big. Let me scale that down.
Nice.
I don't know why I did that. There we go.
Recto.
2. I'm just trying to fit it in the same size as this heart. And I have no idea. What is this? This is AE. We're gonna just select is this an hourglass? What is this?
Search icon?
But see, that's what we call it. But what in real life, like what is it actually called? I forget. I call it a search icon, but I forget.
It's a magnifying glass. Magnifying glass.
All right, there you go. Okay, cool. Yep. Yeah, because even I've never owned a magnifying glass, but our grandmothers probably have, and I'm like, oh, the search icon. I don't know the real life search icon. I don't know what it's called.
Yep. Magnifying glass. I think my grandpa actually had one of those.
Exactly. I'm like, y'all have.
I used to take it and play with it with the sun and burn things and like little leaves and stuff like that, like using the power of the sun coming through the magnifying glass and then like burning that leaf. Like it was just like science to me. Of course, I was like
I have the power.
Right? I was like, I don't know, like 7 or 8, and I was just like creating science, thinking I was creating science.
That's awesome. All right, I don't know how I want to do this, but we'll play with this for now. We'll see. Maybe we'll just leave it above. And I'm not sure if I want to have Nike above or below.
That's the beauty of this. You can do whatever you want.
Yeah, but if it looks dusty,
we'll see. I mean, what do you guys think on the chat?
Above or below?
Yeah. What do you guys think? Let us know.
All right, and we're gonna let's Let's see, I get a filter icon.
Fergie said that she loves the glasmorphism. It was
Thank
like
you.
my impression when I first saw it. I was like, ooh, what is happening there?
You're like, those trends, they out here.
They're here, but they're working. You know what I mean?
Yes. So I think that this doesn't really embody a filter to me at this very moment, but we'll rock with it for now. Okay. For now. Let's see. Let me see if I can find some other ones. I mean, I feel like this speaks more filter to me than this.
I see what you mean.
What do you guys think?
What do you guys think? Left or right?
I'll leave those here for you guys to decide. And then I very simply going to come back up here. I'm going to grab these. See, I componentized some things. I just, I designed this beforehand because we really don't need to see all that. It's just a whole bunch of squares, rectangles, some text.
Yeah.
But if you guys want to see how I made it, happy to do that live with you guys here, but it's really not anything of too much complexity. So
everyone is saying the right one.
I figured. Okay.
Perfect.
And
thank you guys on the chat. Everyone's just much. Right. We have one left.
The outlier.
I can see that. And one of my products for the company that I work for, we use the left one. No, we use the other one.
Yeah.
But it was more, they have their own reasons, of course. That's why it's important, guys, that you test this stuff when you're working on a project, on a product. You test things out. Of course, we're doing it on the fly here because we're having fun. We're creating this like right now. So imagine like this is the beauty of this. Like Brandon is creating this application within a couple of hours, 2 hours, or even less than that. And look what he's creating. Imagine when you have the time to actually do this, like to do the research and have the time and the budget allocated for a project like this. He will triple kill it. You know what I mean?
Hopefully. All right. I am trying to remove this stuff. Okay. All right. Where are we? All right. So we have our categories.
Okay.
And all right, let's take a little inventory of where we're at.
Perfect.
Because I put these just in case if we need something. If we get that far, it was probably a little bit ambitious of what I wanted to build in these 2 days. But let's see what we got. And the time check. We got about 18-ish minutes.
Yep.
Okay. So we got onboarding done. We have our sign-in / registration good to go. We have our search. We have our last scene, last search, the ability to delete all of them. We can see more of our last search. We have most popular search is. We have our main page of the application where we have our search bar at the top. We have, I'm not sure if we need this though, actually.
That's a back button?
Yeah, this would be a back button. And I don't think we need that.
Probably not. Since you're landing for the first time in there.
I'm just going to push this over.
Awesome.
Yeah, so this was, if you guys are wondering why that was there, this was one of the components that basically the majority of the screens that we have, this area does have, like you guys would see me like just copy and paste it on a certain page, and there's like the back button, there's the cart button, and then there's like a random third button. And it's because some of the other screens, sometimes it needs to be a search button, sometimes it needs to be a camera button, but it was one component that I could create and then morph as I needed to morph it throughout the application.
That's right. People are saying that you are flying through this design, which is awesome. And Yeah, it kind of like reminds me when I was designing a mobile app too on Adobe Live,
Yeah.
and I was just like scared. Like I was like, am I gonna be able to do this on day one and then day two? I was just like trying to time everything, and you know, we both have been in this situation.
We know how to sweat gracefully.
Right? Or not connecting, like 30 seconds before we go live. 3, 2, 1. Oh my God.
Yeah.
And go. But, we do the best we can.
Exactly. So what I'm doing right now is I'm pulling a Fergie. Well, I'm doing Fergie a tilt of the hat. I am now organizing myself now that I have the majority of my things. So I'm making groups. I do need to go and name them, because once we start getting the animation and I don't know what group 125 and group 126 are, and Adobe has no idea. Naming is super important when you get into animation. It needs to know, hey, you're moving this group. On this artboard, it's called group 1, but in this artboard, it's called group 2. So to us, or to Adobe XD, they're two different elements. They need to be named the same. So it's time for organization time. We've gone through a little bit of our messy time.
Nice.
And okay. Group that. This component. This is looking good. All right, we need to group this.
People are just laughing on the chat. Pulling a Fergie.
I'm doing what Fergie tells everybody. Pulling a Fergie is a good thing. If you pull yes, you can pull a Brandon Groce in the beginning, but then as it's time to deliver the project, you want to put the Fergie hat on.
Yep, that's right.
All right. I do feel like this needs to move up here.
Let's see.
And the back button, maybe we'll make it this gray color so we can at least see it a little bit.
Awesome. Like that.
Let's see. But there's emptiness here that I don't like. So I am going to put a red block to remind me something needs to be there.
Something?
Yes. And I don't know what. Ruben, what do you think should be there? I feel like it needs...
I don't know. I mean, like, I'm thinking about the name that you put it up there, but then I'm just thinking about the Nike is it looks good there, but then what if you have a gigantic name for that category? It will be truncated with the search icon that you have there. But that's just me thinking, like this is a real application. Like you got to account for stuff like that when you are designing a product. You got to think about all the possibilities. Like what if you have a gigantic name? Then it'll be kind of like truncated in there, but you got to think about all the little things, of course. But yeah, maybe tomorrow you can come up with something. Maybe you can, I don't know, maybe think about some sort of, because where you had the Nike, I think it kind of worked, but it's just like how you want to organize things.
Yeah.
In the page.
Well, maybe
definitely
here for now.
Okay, Ruben, I make you happy. I'll put it back.
All right. Oh my God. Well, this is better than having to deal with this hot mess over here. Because that's, and I think this is something that we're going to have to figure out too, is because unless we change how I've built this page, like for example, this could, rather, because this being here, maybe this is just the pop-up, maybe this is not a page.
Maybe like a takeover, or I don't know.
Yeah, something like that.
All right, so we have some suggestions here on the chat. Let's see. Agree the Nike over the key visuals. That was one, and then I have another one. Perhaps the logo is better option and cap the width of it to be saved. Then another suggestion is true. Like if they were some Balenciagas or LVs, Levi's, uh,
Louis Vuitton or no?
yeah, or Louis Vuitton, and the name might get too long,
Yeah.
and I don't know if that will fit the layout. Yeah, we kind of like, and this is just like us like thinking out loud, and this is kind of like the process, right? Like you see things and you start thinking about, you know, stuff like that, and that's the beauty of being a UX designer. You start thinking about everything within that screen, and if it works, if it doesn't work, and what happens if this gets too long, what happens if that. It's just what if scenarios all over the place.
Yeah, it gets to be a lot, and I'm like, because I'm trying to see. We have about 10 minutes left. Tomorrow is gonna be 1:30.
That's right.
Question to the chat: do you want to? Because I think we'll probably have enough time to go through some of these, or at least the cart. Would you rather see for tomorrow more animation and prototyping, or a continuation of designing out the rest of these experiences? I'll probably only do like 2 more, maybe the cart and checkout, but that would probably be it. But yeah, that's kind of like my first question. More designing or more prototyping and animating for tomorrow? That will dictate the next 10 minutes.
Yep. What do you guys think on the chat? Let us know right away. What do you guys prefer? If he can continue designing some of the other screens, or he can go ahead and start prototyping some stuff, or what do you guys think? Let us know. Oof, I see the first one. Animation.
All right, cool. So I think what I'll do is maybe I will shoot out
two of them already. Animation. Andrea is like screaming animation right now. Maybe you can give a little bit of a sneak peek of one screen, or I don't know. Just be cautious. Like we are 9 minutes left, so.
I'll wait for tomorrow, because we'll end this with like a not very I haven't thought about the animations yet, and we'll basically end this on like, oh, fair, like a not very good note. They'll be like, okay, well, because we won't finish. I want the whole day to be like a finesse of I don't want you guys to see a little bit, if that makes sense.
I see what you're doing. So guys, if you want to see the whole animation of this app, you have to join us tomorrow. So that's, you know, he's going to continue working on some designs on other screens right now, but then tomorrow, that's when he's going to come back and blow us away with all these animations and crazy things, transitions, and, you know, things happening between screens and stuff like that.
Yes.
I think you killed it today. You created way too many screens in only one single day, keeping up with me, keeping up with the chat and questions. So
I try, guys. I was in my sweatsuit listening to some rocking music, ready to take on the day and your questions.
People are saying that you are very creative.
Maybe. I don't know about all that.
I
like making things.
I had the same of, I think I was doing a live stream, and a person told me like, oh, you are very creative. And I was like, yeah, I know. Thanks. And and I was like making kind of like a joke. I was kind of like making a joke out of it. And he was like, wow, like, oh, you think too much of you, or kind of like that, not in a bad way. And I was like, no, I was just like, you know, I'm good.
Yeah.
It's not, I wouldn't say it's not that, you know, you're being, you know, like narcissist or nothing like that. It's just more like, just have fun and also trust yourself. Like, you know, you're good, right? But, you know, some people tell you like you're good. It's because they're seeing it. So, and I'll tell you, you're an amazing designer.
I appreciate it, Ruben. Sometimes it's funny how you say that. That sometimes that what is it? Sometimes compliments can be like baited compliments where they're like, "Oh, you're really good at this," and you're like, "Oh, thanks," and they're like, "No." You like they're like in a gasp of like how you could.
How you like? Oh, you think you're really good? I'm like, I think I'm decent. I'm good. I mean, it all depends. It's subjective, you know. It's like some people might think you're great, and some people might think you're decent, and some other people might think you're. But as designers, we don't think. Well, if you're humble, you're never going to think like I'm the best of the best. It's just like a learning experience throughout your whole journey as a designer, and you never stop learning. So, you know what I mean? It's just that you're trying to do the best you can. But yeah, and some people like, it's funny. Like some people also say like, how do you get till the level that you are right now? Like, how do you design stuff like this? Like to people, it's, you know, like Brandon, like I said, is designing this amazing commerce mobile app, and you see all the colors and how they combine and how they work and the typography and the balance and everything. It's because Brandon already has X amount of years of experience and in
copying people.
It's all about stealing like an artist, right? Everything is invented. Okay. So everything is invented. So it's just like for you to, you know, keep growing as a designer and keep growing and keep up with what's happening out there.
Exactamente.
Alrighty. So we have done it. I think Brandon did an amazing job today. Thank you so much for tuning in, everyone on the chat. Hello.
You're here. Loud and clear.
Okay, so thank you so much for being with us today. To join us tomorrow at 9 a.m. Pacific time for a Creative Express stream with Andy Lambert tomorrow morning for their best tips and tricks about mapping out your social calendar. Thank you so much, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.
Peace.